Have you ever had a moment when just one sentence was enough to wipe out your entire childhood? I have. And that sentence was, "You're just an ugly dropout. Don't ever show your face in this house again." Those were the last words my mother said to me, right before she slammed that big, heavy door, straight in my face. No hesitation, no regret. That day, Jolly Clark, 22 years old, stood on the front porch with a cheap suitcase I'd bought with my part-time wages. I looked through the window pane and saw something that hurt even more than the insults. My family. Laughing, chatting, acting like I had never existed. In the brightly lit living room, my dad sat in a leather chair reading the paper as if nothing serious had just happened. My mom stood next to my little sister, Olivia, fixing her dress for some party, both of them laughing together. Right in the moment, the eldest daughter was being kicked out of the house. No one turned back to look at me. No one asked where I would go. No one asked if I was okay. As if I wasn't their child at all. It wasn't my dream I let go of. It was college. I asked to take a gap year to stabilize my mental health. I was shaking when I said it because I knew for sure my parents would be disappointed. But I didn't expect. Their reaction wouldn't be disappointment. It would be disgust. "I don't have dropouts in this house. Get out of here before you shame the Clark name. Ugly little dropout." That was when my mother screamed that sentence, the one that still feels like a blade stuck in my heart. Then she kicked me out. No money, no concern. And Olivia? My perfect little sister. She stood on the stairs, arms folded, a faint smile on her lips. A smile I'd seen since we were kids. Every time something bad happened to me, that smile would appear. The smile of someone who enjoys seeing her sister fail. I wasn't kicked out because I dropped out. I was kicked out because I no longer fit the family image they wanted to display to society. I wasn't as pretty as Olivia. Not as talented as Olivia. Not as classy as Olivia. I was ugly. I was a dropout. I was not worth showing off. So they threw me away. If you think that's the worst part, no. The worst part is that I believed them. I believed I was useless, inferior, unworthy of love. And with every step I dragged that suitcase away from the house that day, I felt like I wasn't just walking away from my old home. I was walking away from the life I had desperately tried to hold on to. No cake, no wishes. Just a park bench and a text from Olivia. "Happy birthday. Hope you find somewhere to sleep tonight." I stared at that message, tears falling without knowing whether it was from pain, anger, or because I'd been stupid enough to think family was a place I could always return to. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed everything. The times I was scolded for not being as pretty as my sister. The times I won awards no one at home cared to look at. The times teachers praised me, but I still got called useless at home. The times I tried my hardest to please them, and it was still not enough. I suddenly understood. Some families are not homes. They're just the place you were born, not the place you are loved. A small flame. Very small. But enough to keep me from collapsing. I swore to myself, one day, Jolly, you'll come back, not to beg for forgiveness, but to show them. They threw away a daughter the rest of the world would have died to have. I didn't know what the future would look like. Didn't know where I'd be tomorrow. But I knew one thing. The Clarks had thrown me away. But with these hands, I would build a life they would never again be able to destroy. People say, ending up on the street is misery. I swear, I never truly understood that until the night I was kicked out. I thought I would scream, cry, beg, but no. I was just numb. The cheap suitcase rattled behind me like it was laughing. See? Your family doesn't want you anymore. I called a few close friends from college, asking if I could crash on their couch for the night. Thankfully, one of them said, "Come over, Jolly. My couch is kinda stiff, but I bet it's still softer than your mom's heart." I laughed. A laugh filled with pain and gratitude. The next day, I woke up on a worn-out couch, the smell of instant ramen still lingering on the table. Morning light seeped in, reminding me of the bright, polished room I used to wake up in. Classic curtains, a luxurious dressing table, all in the Clark mansion. And now, I was lying between two mismatched pillows in an old student apartment, listening to neighbors argue about rent. And I realized I officially had no home to go back to. Do you know that feeling? No anchor, no place you can call mine. It feels like you've been erased from the map of the world. Worse than that, I couldn't tell anyone I was falling apart. I didn't want to bother anyone. So I let the pain quietly eat me alive from the inside. Waitress, sales girl, night shift office cleaner, cafe server, on-demand packing and moving service. If it paid, I did it. There were days I worked 14 hours, but at the end of the month, it was only just enough to exist. I used to be the Clark daughter, living in a mansion, riding in nice cars, dining at fancy restaurants with my parents and their wealthy friends. And now, dinner was instant noodles or a $1 sandwich. And you know what hurt the most? My family lived 20 minutes away by car. But they might as well have been on another planet. They didn't look for me, didn't ask if I was alive or dead. Not a single text. I became invisible. At night, lying on that couch, I often asked myself, am I really as useless as Mom said? Am I really ugly? A failure? Someone who will never be as good as Olivia? Do I really deserve to be kicked out? Those questions didn't come from society. They came from the people who were supposed to protect me. And when you hear those words for so many years, you start to believe them. I thought I didn't deserve success. Thought I wasn't good enough to do what I loved. Thought there was no place in the world for me. I hit rock bottom, the real bottom. One evening, curled up in my friend's tiny kitchen, sharing her old laptop, I opened a few old design files I'd made back when I was still in school. Clumsy logos, colorful, unbalanced posters, layouts that clearly needed work. But strangely, when I looked at them, I saw a part of myself still alive. A part my parents couldn't crush. A part Olivia couldn't steal. I touched the screen and whispered, I used to be good at this. I used to love this. In that moment, I knew one thing. Even if the whole world thought I was a failure, I would stop calling myself one. I wasn't great yet. I wasn't okay yet. I wasn't successful yet. But I would be. I watched hundreds of tutorials on Photoshop, Illustrator, UI UX, branding. Anything free online, I devoured. I searched for design gigs on Fiverr, Upwork, Facebook groups. Anyone needing a $20 logo, I took it. Need a $5 banner edit, I took it. Need a cheap website, I said yes even if I didn't know how yet. then stayed up all night to learn. I remember some days I worked until 4 a.m., slept 2 hours, then dragged myself to a morning shift. Someone once looked at me and asked, "Why are you so stubborn, Jolly? How do you survive on 2 hours of sleep?" I just smiled, because I don't have a way back. A small shop owner texted me, "The logo is amazing, Jolly. Next time, design my signage too, okay?" Another client wrote, "You're so young but already doing work like this. Impressive." I burst into tears reading those simple lines. Not because they were extraordinary, but because for the first time in years, someone called me good, without adding a but behind it. I started to believe again. I realized my mom can call me ugly, my dad can call me a failure, Olivia can look down on me, but strangers, my clients, they looked at my work, not my last name. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Free from my family's judgment. Free from the mold they forced me into. Free from the fear of never being as good as Olivia. I didn't need to be like anyone else. I just needed to be myself. A little better each day. As I slowly rebuilt my life, as I began to believe I could become someone, an unexpected turning point slammed into me, and it came from the last person I thought would ever appear in my story again. If someone had told 22-year-old me that one day I'd become the CEO of a $1 million agency, I'd think they were mocking me. Back then, I didn't even have a proper bed, let alone a company. But life has a way of compensating those who've been crushed. It doesn't hand you miracles. It hands you chances to create your own. And my chance started from a few dollars earned through sleepless nights. Logos for $20. Posters for $10. Photo edits for $5. People said I was undercutting the market. They didn't get it. I didn't belong to any market yet. I just needed money to eat. And even though the amounts were pitifully small, every time a client praised me, I felt my heart come back to life a little more. One day, the owner of a nail salon I'd designed a logo for texted, "Jolly, my customers keep complimenting the new sign. Do you do websites too? I want to make one." I had never made a website. But you know what I said? "Yes, give me 3 days." Then I threw myself into YouTube, Udemy, any free course I could find, studying until I understood. That was the first time I realized nothing in this life can scare someone who's already been kicked out of their own home. Once you've tasted rock bottom, everything else is just a hard assignment, not a death sentence. One night, I got an email from a small cafe wanting a full rebrand. I sent a proposal with shaky hands, and they chose me. I practically didn't sleep for 2 weeks. Logo, menu, signage, packaging, website, brand photo shoot. On launch day, I stood outside watching the line of customers, looking up at the brand identity I had created hanging proudly above the door. I cried, really cried. Not because I was proud, but because I thought, if only my parents could see this. If only they knew I wasn't something to be thrown away. But then I wiped my tears and thought, no, I don't need them to acknowledge me anymore. I acknowledge myself. Noah Reed was an old classmate of mine. The day I got kicked out, he was the first one to say, "Jolly, you're not useless. You were just born into the wrong family." I didn't realize how important that sentence was until Noah showed back up in my life while I was drowning in projects. He looked at my schedule, opened his laptop and said, "If you keep doing everything alone. You're going to burn out. Let me do it with you. Noah was brilliant at business, scary good. He knew how to manage clients, draft contracts, close deals. And he knew how to push people forward, not crush them like my family did. I handled design. He handled sales. And that's how Reed and Jolly Creative was born. Not in a fancy office, but on a wobbly dining table in a rented apartment. We laughed and said, "One day this company will be so big we won't recognize where it started." I thought Noah was joking. He wasn't. We made enough to pay for Wi-Fi and food, but clients kept coming. Referrals came in. People looked for us after seeing logos we'd made out on the streets. That was when I learned a truth. People who have been looked down on will work harder than anyone can understand. Not to prove something to the world, but to prove to themselves that they are worthy. At the end of the second year, we rented a tiny office, so small that if 2 people stood up, there'd be no space left for a desk. But it was ours. I plastered my designs all over the walls. Noah put up a big goal board. Hit $1 million in revenue within 3 years. I laughed in his face. "That only happens in movies." Noah shrugged. "Then let's make our own movie." Our first big contract came from a health food company, then a tech startup, then a chain of luxury spas. We had to hire staff, then move into a bigger office, then get our own server. I still remember the moment Noah ran into my office, shoved his laptop in front of me. "Jolly, we just officially hit 1.2 million this year." My knees went weak. I had to sit down. I remembered. The sleepless nights, the times I cried when clients canceled jobs, the mornings so exhausting I drank 4 cups of coffee, and the day my mom threw me out with the words, "Ugly little dropout." I laughed. A laugh full of bitterness and pride. I looked at Noah and said, "If my parents saw this number, they'd say it's thanks to their genes." Noah smiled. "No, it's thanks to you surviving." And he was right. I didn't succeed despite my past. I succeeded because of it. If I hadn't been kicked out, I would never have known how strong I could be. If I hadn't been insulted, I'd never have known how high I could rise. One night, after a long meeting, I opened my phone and saw a text from someone from my old life. "Jolly, did you hear? Your family is throwing a huge graduation party for Olivia. Sounds extravagant. Wanna come?" I froze. 5 years. 5 years without anyone in my family asking if I was alive. 5 years of them pretending I didn't exist. And now? I was invited? Not by them. Not with an apology. Just a casual invite from an outsider. And with that invite came a strange surge in my chest, curiosity, anger, and the urge to face them. I wanted them to see the Jolly they'd called an ugly dropout, now living a life they could never imagine. A storm was coming, not just for the past, but for the entire Clark family and the flawless image they'd built for years. And I was at its center. The day I decided to walk into Olivia's graduation party, the little sister who'd always been paraded as the pride of the Clark family. It was drizzling in Nashville. I stood in front of the mirror in my new penthouse. Soft curls, a sleek black-fitted dress, heels tapping on the floor like the drums of a coming war. In the mirror, I didn't see the girl who'd been called ugly, ordinary, useless. Not the one my father had kicked out for dropping out. Not the trembling girl packing her stuff while the door slammed behind her. I saw Jolly, $1 million CEO, a woman who rebuilt her own life with the same hands people mocked. I whispered to my reflection, today, I'm not going as their daughter. I'm going so they finally see who they lost. When I arrived, it was exactly what you'd expect from the Clarks. Extravagant, flashy, dripping with show-off energy, crystal chandeliers, expensive wine, live band, everything to glorify Olivia. The pride, the role model, the hope of the family. I walked in, and just as I'd predicted, not a single person recognized me. Not the relatives, not the people who'd known me since I was little, not even one of the faces that had mocked me years ago. I had changed too much. Or maybe they had never really looked at me long enough to remember me. I walked past a group of aunties. They stared at me like I was some VIP stranger, then went back to gushing about Olivia's $3,000 dress. I chuckled to myself. Funny. I had to become a millionaire before they'd bother to look my way. My dad stood in the center of the room, wine glass in hand, face full of pride. My mom, glowing, covered in jewelry she once said I wasn't worthy to touch. They looked like a perfect couple from some advertisement, if you didn't know what was behind that glossy paint. I stood 3 meters away from them. They walked right past me. No pause, no second glance, no flicker of recognition that the daughter they disowned was standing right there. A chill ran down my spine. For years I'd secretly hoped that maybe, someday, they'd realize they were wrong, that they'd remember me. But no. In their story, I was a stranger now. I moved toward the center where they were congratulating Olivia. She had changed a lot. Sleek blonde hair, a pristine white dress, a confident smile. That same arrogant look I remembered from childhood. I stood right in front of her. She looked me up and down and said in a polite, distant tone, "Whose guest are you?" I almost laughed. Someone who lived in the same house with her for 18 years was now just a stranger. I smiled slightly. I'm not anyone's guest, just here to watch an interesting party. Olivia nodded, cold and cordial. Well, I hope you enjoy yourself. Then she turned away, not suspecting anything. Before I could leave, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned. Professor Myers, my old college professor. He stared at me. Jolly. Is that you? I thought you were abroad. Your parents said so. I froze. Abroad? So they'd built a pretty little lie that I was successful, busy overseas, while they played the role of proud parents? I smiled faintly. You believe them? Professor Myers shook his head. No. Once I saw you standing here, I knew they'd lied. In that moment, I understood something. The Clarks hadn't just pushed me out of their lives. They'd replaced me with a fictional version that fit their image. And tonight, the real me had walked back in. Right then, the MC announced my dad was going to give another speech. Everyone fell silent. He raised his glass, smiling. We have 2 daughters, Olivia, the pride of our family, and Jolly, who's doing very well abroad with her very successful design company. Applause filled the room. I stood right below the stage, right in front of him. He didn't recognize me, didn't know the daughter he was lying about, was hearing every word like a slap. I felt my blood boil. They'd kicked me out, humiliated me, called me the disgrace of the family. And now, they dared use my success to shine themselves up? No, I wasn't letting that slide. I took a step forward, then another, and then I stood directly under the stage lights, ready for the entire room to hear the truth. This would be the opening scene of everything that followed. The truth exposed. The Clark family's mask shattering. And the biggest storm of their lives beginning. And I would be the one to start it. The room was still buzzing from my dad's flowery speech about his successful daughter abroad. Me, the girl they'd kicked out. Me, the ugly dropout. Me, the girl they'd walked past without recognition. The applause faded. I was about to step onto the stage when a voice sounded behind me. A voice I knew instantly. Olivia. What do you think you're doing here, Jolly? I turned. She stood there, face twisted with annoyance, eyes burning holes into me. Seeing me still here, alive, more beautiful, more successful, rattled her more than she could hide. Are you here to ruin my party? Olivia hissed. We didn't invite you. Are you dense or just shameless? I smiled lightly. What's wrong? I'm just standing here. That's enough to make you nervous? She rolled her eyes. You disappear for 5 years and pop up like a ghost. It's weird. Weird? I straightened, looking her in the eye. Olivia paled slightly but forced her arrogance. Anyway, what do you have to brag about? You're a dropout. I'm surprised you even survived this long. That was the Olivia I knew. Someone who could never stand the thought of me doing well. Especially better than her. She glanced around, then lowered her voice, still sharp. Just don't stand near me. I don't want people knowing I have a loser sister. Loser? I laughed, but my laughter made her instinctively step back. Olivia, I'm not the girl you used to step on. Who do you think I am? She didn't answer. You think I'm still the one crying on someone else's couch? The one Mom called ugly? The one Dad said wasn't worthy of being his child? Olivia's composure faltered. But I wasn't done. Before I could continue, a man's voice called from behind. Jolly, is that really you? I turned and recognized him. Dr. Harris, Dean of Medicine, Olivia's direct supervisor. He came over, shaking my hand right in front of her. I tried to contact you to design the university site. Never thought I'd see you here. People nearby turned to stare. Olivia's eyes went wide. Wait, you know her? Dr. Harris laughed. Of course, Jolly's agency is famous. I've been trying to book a major project with her. I tilted my head with a small smile. Yes, I remember your email. He asked, So you two know each other? He still hadn't put it together. Before Olivia could lie, I replied, We have some family history, but I'm probably not mentioned much. Olivia's grip tightened on her glass. Shut up, she muttered. Dr. Harris turned to me again. I'd like to set up a meeting to discuss the contract properly. Are you free this Monday? Right there, in the middle of the party, in front of the sister who'd mocked me for dropping out, in front of people who'd looked down on me. A $500,000 opportunity fell into my lap. I smiled. Yes, I'm free. I'd love to work together. He patted my shoulder. Great. You're exactly who we need. Olivia stood frozen. When he walked away, Olivia whispered, voice shaking with venom. Why couldn't you just disappear? Why come back now of all times? You want to ruin my life? I looked at her for a long moment. then said, "I don't have to ruin your life, Olivia. You're doing a fine job on your own." Her eyes reddened, not from hurt, but from jealousy. I added, quietly but pointed, "You know what makes me stronger than you? I've already lived without this family. You only exist because of the image they feed you." Olivia trembled. "You can't say that." I walked away, leaving her to face something she'd never felt before. Losing. On stage, my father was getting ready for another speech. He had no idea that a storm named Jolly had just entered the room. The next part would rip all the Clark masks off in front of hundreds of people. After my confrontation with Olivia, I moved to a shadowed corner of the hall, a place the warm lights didn't reach, where people came to fix themselves before going back out to fake perfection. I stood there, breathing deeply. I knew this feeling. That strange stillness before something breaks. And right on cue, I heard Olivia on the phone. Her tone was sharp, rushed, totally different from the polished act she'd put on earlier. She was whispering, but every word cut through the air. I held my breath, leaning closer behind the curtain. "No, Mom. Jolly doesn't know anything. She just happened to show up." I frowned. "Know what? Just happened?" My mother's voice came through, cold, familiar, dripping contempt. "You're sure? If she finds out we're filing to revoke her inheritance, everything's ruined." I froze. Revoke. Her. Inheritance? My heart hammered in my chest. Olivia lowered her voice. "I already talked to the lawyer. As long as we prove she left the family on her own, her share goes to me." My mother replied, "Good. This family only needs one daughter. And it's not her. Jolly made herself a stranger. She doesn't deserve a cent from the Clark line." I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my skin. That feeling of being stabbed in the back. Not new, but this was deeper. I never asked them for money. I never took a cent after they kicked me out. But behind my back, they were quietly trying to steal what was legally mine. That was another cut. A cut from the very person who gave birth to me. Olivia spoke again, bitterness spilling out. "Don't worry, Mom. She won't stay on top for long. She's a dropout. A mental wreck. Whatever reputation she has now, it's just luck." My mother scoffed. "Luck? She's always been a failure. We just have to sit and wait for her to fall back down." Talking about me, like a broken object. Then Mom added, "Just make sure she's off the inheritance. My friends at the retirement club already know the assets are going to Olivia. We can't let that change." The inheritance, already promised to my sister? I stood there, numb. So in the end, it was all about money and status. I'd underestimated how cold they truly were. Olivia said one last thing before hanging up, a line that chilled me. "Don't worry, Mom. She's not family. And soon it'll be that way on paper, too." She ended the call. I shut the door on the last pieces of my childhood in a single breath. No more going back. No more hopes of a family that might change. No more blood ties to rely on. But instead of feeling shattered like the first time they kicked me out, I was strangely calm. The kind of calm that comes when someone truly has nothing left to lose and is finally strong enough to fight back. As Olivia turned to leave that dark corner, another figure appeared, Dr. Harris. He'd just stepped out of the restroom, and it hurt enough. He looked at her, then at me, and understood. His eyes widened. Olivia, were you just talking about cutting your own sister out of her inheritance? Olivia went pale. I straightened and smiled. A cold smile I'd never seen on my own face before. Well, Dr. Harris, it seems I just learned a few interesting things about the Clarks. He nodded, his face a mix of confusion and disappointment. Jolly, I'm sorry you had to go through this. You don't deserve it. He continued, if you need any legal or PR support, I'll help you. His words were like a ray of light slicing through the dark. I wasn't alone. I wasn't weak. And I had something the Clarks never knew. A world outside that respects merit, not bloodlines. And I now had the position to fight. Olivia, you should start praying, I said calmly. If I make this call public, it won't just destroy the Clark family's reputation. It'll burn down your shiny medical career, too. She trembled. You wouldn't dare. I stepped closer and whispered, you should know this by now. I don't dare. I do. The ballroom was still buzzing. Laughter, clinking glasses, endless praise for Olivia. No one knew that in a few minutes, a bomb of truth would blow apart this elegant party. I walked out of that dark corner. I had only planned to observe, but after what I'd heard, silence was no longer an option. Olivia saw me heading toward the stage, panic on her face. What are you doing, Jolly? What are you doing? I didn't answer. I just walked. Tall, steady, like the entire room belonged to me. Then my father stood beside the MC, ready to give his third speech, the perfect family bit. I stepped up. All eyes turned to me. He frowned. Who are you? This event is for invited guests only. I met his eyes. Strange. You don't recognize your own daughter? A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Daughter? Is that Jolly? She came back? My parents' faces went white. The MC awkwardly handed me the microphone. I smiled. A smile that made Olivia physically flinch. I spoke into the mic. Sorry, everyone. I need to clarify something. Just now, my father said, our eldest daughter, Jolly, is working abroad and is too busy to attend. I paused. But actually, I've been standing here in this room for over an hour. And my parents didn't even recognize me. The room went silent. I continued. And I'm not working abroad. I live right here in Nashville. I run a design company with million-dollar revenue every year. A loud gasp spread through the room. Olivia bit her lip so hard it bled. I looked around. But what you probably don't know is, I was kicked out at 22, called ugly, a dropout, useless, officially disowned. The noise grew. For 5 years, no one from this family asked if I was alive. Not one text, not one call. I turned to my parents. And yet tonight, they stand here, bragging about me as if I'm their achievement. My father snapped, Jolly, that's enough. This isn't the time or place. Exactly, I cut in. This isn't the place for more lies. The whole room held its breath. I held up my phone. Olivia, would you like to explain? Or should I play the recording of your call with Mom? She went ghost white, shaking. Don't. You wouldn't. I hit speaker. Olivia's voice rang out. As long as we prove she left on her own, the inheritance goes to me. Jolly doesn't deserve it. She's just a useless dropout. She's not family, and soon it'll be that way on paper, too. Boom. The room exploded. Some people literally gaped. My mother staggered. My father froze. I lowered the phone and enunciated. For 5 years, they forgot I existed. But once they realized I had money, they started filing to take the inheritance my grandmother left me. I stared straight at Olivia. You always thought I'd stay weak, but you forgot something important. Someone who's already lost everything, has nothing left to fear. Olivia collapsed into her chair, pale. I finished. Family isn't something you use to show off. Family is where someone catches you when you fall, not the ones waiting to kick you while you're down. I turned to the crowd. If anyone here wants to know who the real Jolly Clark is, this is the truth. I am not the child they threw away. I am the person who survived. I set the microphone down. The hall erupted. Whispers, shock, murmurs like thunder. The Clark family? Silent. Shattered. And me? I walked off that stage like a queen who'd just dethroned a fake kingdom. The hall after my reveal felt like it had been hit by a Category 12 storm. No one knew what to say. No one dared stand too close to the Clarks. My parents stood there, stunned. Olivia shook in her seat. The moral masks they'd worn for years lay in pieces. I thought it ended there. But no. That was just the first cut. The final blow came from someone else. A deep voice from the back of the room. Jolly? I turned. My heart skipped a beat. Noah. Noah, the only friend who stayed when I was at rock bottom. The one who believed in me when nobody else did. The one who said, "One day the world will know who you are." And now, he stood here, right as my family fell apart. He walked toward me, eyes warm and sharp at the same time, as if he'd heard everything. I'm a bit late, but in time to hear the whole truth. I said nothing. Noah looked around the hall, then at my parents. I think it's time everyone knows who Jolly really is. No one knew this, not even me. Noah stepped onto the stage, voice clear. I'm Noah Miller, head of media and sponsorship for tonight's event. Murmurs rose again. Some people recognized his name, CEO of a major media company in Nashville. He went on, I never interfere with people's private events, but after hearing what happened tonight, I decided this truth cannot be buried again. He signaled the tech team. The giant LED screen behind the stage lit up. The call between Olivia and my mother played again, fully, clearly, unmistakable. The room went wild. Olivia turned gray-white. Noah, you can't! This is family business! He looked at her calmly. Family business that includes fraud over inheritance and character defamation? I think the public has a right to know. Noah turned to me, then addressed the room. There's something else Jolly hasn't said. He pulled up another file. Dozens of sponsorship documents, thank you letters, promo materials, appeared on screen. All using my name, Jolly Clark, even after they'd kicked me out. The Clark family has been using Jolly's name to gain sponsorships, contracts, and build their 2 successful daughters' image for the past 5 years. Another wave of outrage. My parents blanched. Noah's voice cut like a knife. They profited off the achievements of someone they themselves disowned to boost the stand-in of the daughter they chose to keep. I heard Olivia whisper, "No, this can't be happening." But it was all there. No way to deny it now. My dad tried to fight back. "Noah, you have no right." Noah didn't let him finish. You have no right to talk about rights when you exploited your own daughter's reputation for your benefit. My father swallowed his words. My mother began to cry, but no one looked at her with pity anymore. Olivia stood, shaking. What do you want from me? Why did you come back just to ruin me? I met her gaze. I didn't ruin you. The truth did. As the room buzzed, as the Clark name crumbled, Noah stepped down and came to my side. He held out his hand. Let's go, Jolly. You don't have to stand in a place that tried to bury you. I placed my hand in his, softly, but firmly. And as we walked out of the spotlight, I heard whispers behind us. That's the real winner. The next day, Nashville was buzzing. Clark family exposed at graduation party. Eldest daughter returns like a thunderbolt. Did they really exploit their own child's success? I didn't need to read the news. The whispers were enough to tell me the Clark era was over. But to truly close it for good, I had to face them one last time. I walked into the meeting room. Long wooden table, harsh white lights, heavy stormy air. On the other side, my father, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. My mother, makeup barely hiding the collapse. Olivia, like a ghost who'd just woken from a nightmare. Their lawyer sat beside them, hands shaking slightly as he shuffled papers. I sat opposite, back straight, eyes steady. Marcus, my lawyer, opened. We're here to resolve all outstanding issues between Jolly and the Clark family. My father inhaled, trying to sound composed. Jolly, you have to understand. This was all a misunderstanding. We never wanted things to go this far. I leaned in, eyes on him. A misunderstanding? You stole 5 years of my life. Then tried to steal the inheritance Grandma left me. You really think that's just a misunderstanding? He fell silent. My mother dabbed at her eyes. We're family. We just wanted to protect our image. I laughed softly. Protect your image. Did you ever want to protect me? The room went ice cold. Marcus spoke clearly. We are demanding 3 things. 1. The Clarks relinquish any claim to Jolly's inheritance. 2. They sign a formal acknowledgement of using her name improperly in sponsorship deals. And cease forever. 3. They terminate all legal, financial, and formal family claims to her. My parents turned even paler. Olivia swallowed hard. Their lawyer sputtered. That's essentially severing family ties completely. Marcus shrugged. Those ties were severed 5 years ago. We're just making it legal. While my parents struggled to salvage their pride, Olivia suddenly stood up. She cried. Real tears. Do you want to know why I hated you? I stayed quiet. Because growing up, you were always the good one. They compared me to you constantly. I was exhausted, jealous. When you dropped out, it was the first time I felt above you. She choked. But when you disappeared, they told me you were a failure, useless. They needed me to believe you were beneath me, so I'd feel secure. I was wrong. I hurt you to prove my own worth. She held out a shaking hand. I'm sorry. I really am. I looked at her. For the first time in years, I saw her not as a villain, but as someone broken too. Apologies aren't for me to forgive you, I said calmly. They're for you to be able to live with yourself. Olivia lowered her head, tears falling. My father sighed. You can keep the inheritance. Just stop taking this to the media. We still have our reputation. I laughed lightly. Your reputation has always mattered more than me. That's fine. But I'll say this once. I leaned forward. If you use my name one more time, I'll make sure Nashville forgets the Clarks ever existed. He choked. My mother trembled, speechless. Their lawyer quickly nodded. We accept the terms. Marcus slid the contract across the table. My father signed. My mother signed. Olivia signed. Each stroke of the pen was another crack in the perfect facade of the Clark family. Marcus tucked the agreement away. From now on, Jolly is completely independent. None of you have any right to interfere in her life again. I stood up, looked at them one last time. The people who had treated me like a burden, exploited my success, tried to erase me, now sat there, shrinking away from my gaze. I no longer hated them. They just seemed small. Thank you, I said softly. They looked up, startled. I smiled. For kicking me out. If you hadn't, there wouldn't be a Jolly like today. I turned and walked out of the room. The door closed behind me. Ending a bloodline, but opening a life that was free, strong, and truly mine. That morning, after signing away all legal ties with the Clarks, I woke up feeling strangely empty. No pain, no anger, no resentment, just light. So light it felt like someone had finally lifted a slab of stone that had been crushing my chest for 20 years. I stood in my penthouse, every piece of it paid for by me. Not by the Clarks, not by family status, not by anyone's charity. All created by me. By Jolly Miller, not Clark. For the first time in my life, I felt two words. Truly free. When Marcus told me Grandma's inheritance had hit my account, I just stared at the number. I thought I'd feel joy. But instead, I felt peace. Because that money was no longer a chain they could use to bind me. It was mine. Legal, rightful, owing nothing to them. I remembered those nights with instant noodles, sleeping on couches, juggling 3 jobs just to stay afloat. Remembered crying quietly, not knowing how I'd survive the next day. Looking at that number, I didn't think, I'm rich now. I thought, I didn't give up. And that was the real wealth. I decided to take a portion and create a scholarship fund for underprivileged design students. Because if my friend hadn't let me sleep on that couch back then, I might not be here at all. The Clarks were never really home. They were a golden cage where I had to play perfect child. Now that the legal link was erased, with my name gone from their documents, I thought it would hurt. Instead, I felt something else, like I was finally allowed to own my own name. Not the name they used to decorate their masks. I whispered to myself, from now on, Jolly, you live for you. I no longer flinched thinking about them, no longer feared being compared to Olivia. No longer had that voice inside saying, not good enough. Strangely, I didn't hate them anymore. You don't need to keep hatred for people who never knew how to love you. Letting go is the most beautiful victory. I was looking out at the Nashville lights when someone knocked. Noah stepped in. Tall, steady, eyes full of pride when he looked at me. You okay? He asked. I smiled. For the first time ever, I am. And I mean it. He stood beside me, both of us looking down at the city. After a while, he said, You did something most people don't have the courage to do. You cut off a toxic family to save yourself. You're stronger than you think, Jolly. I laughed softly. I used to think they were all I had. Now I know. I can be my own all. He tilted his head. So, do you still want the Clarks inside your heart? I met his gaze. No. The Clarks might still be on some old birth certificate, but they're no longer in my life. No bitterness, no sting, just the truth. Noah smiled in a way I'd never seen. Welcome to your real life. I don't know what's waiting ahead. A bigger career, a new kind of love, a life no one else controls, but I know this. I will never be Jolly Clark again, the rejected daughter. I am just Jolly, the woman who rebuilt herself from ruins. No more burdens, no more fear, no more Clarks in my heart. Only me. And a life more beautiful than I ever thought I could have. After cutting ties with the Clarks, I thought my life would simply move forward. I didn't expect that standing up for myself would become hope for thousands of others. People hurt by the very place that was supposed to love them. It started with a small interview. A local Nashville paper reached out. We'd like to feature your journey, how you stood back up after being disowned. I agreed, thinking telling the truth would help me close that chapter. I didn't expect. Within 24 hours, the article went viral, with millions of views. The line that struck people most was, "I didn't go looking for a new family to replace them. I learned to become a family for myself." Hundreds of comments and messages poured in every minute. People from all over the world wrote, "Thank you, Jolly. I thought I was the only one my parents treated like a burden. Your story gave me the courage to leave a toxic home. I've never been praised by my parents, but hearing you talk made the pain feel lighter. And for the first time, I realized those years I thought were meaningless actually meant everything." A nonprofit invited me to speak at an event, Healing from Family Trauma. I stepped onto the stage, hands slightly trembling. In the audience, people clutched tissues. Some were teary, some curled into their coats, hiding wounds that had been ignored for years. I began, "Not every family loves us the right way, and not every child is safe in their own home." The room went quiet. I continued, "But your pain does not make you dirty. Being rejected does not make you worthless. You were born to live, not just to endure." A woman burst into tears. A man stood and clapped. Then the whole room rose to their feet, crying and applauding, as if they had finally heard something they'd been waiting on for years. That day, I wasn't speaking just for myself. I was speaking for every child who'd been belittled, silenced, forced to be perfect, just to be loved. After that talk, universities, community groups, mental health programs all invited me to speak. I became a voice for a group society often overlooks. Children crushed under expectations. Children despised for not fitting a mold. Children pushed out when they're at their weakest. I realized I didn't just survive. I became a light for others. One woman wrote, "Because of you, I finally left a home that abused me for 20 years. I started living." A young man said, "You saved me from ending my life. I no longer believe I'm useless." I read every word, and for the first time I cried from happiness. I stood in my office looking in the mirror, in the company I built from nothing, the woman staring back at me, eyes steady, a confident smile, a heart strong enough to forgive and wise enough not to go back. And I realized, I'm no longer the child they abandoned. I'm the one who rescued myself. I once believed my voice didn't matter. Now millions listen to it. I once thought I was a burden. Now my existence brings hope. I once thought the Clarks destroyed me. The truth? They forged me. And now I use that strength to speak for those who can't. Even after years of trying to escape the shadow of the Clarks, I thought one thing would always be out of reach: family. I assumed I'd spend the rest of my life alone, independent, strong, but lonely. Until I finally understood. Family isn't where you're born. Family is where your heart is safe. And I began to see pieces of family show up around me, not through blood, but through the people who walked with me in the dark. Noah never asked, "Why did they do that to you? Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you go back and ask for forgiveness?" He only asked, "What do you want for the rest of your life?" When I said I wanted peace, he didn't lecture me. He just stayed, solid, warm, enough to remind me I wasn't alone. One night, under Nashville's city lights, we stood on my balcony. Soft wind, comfortable silence. Noah said, "You know what's amazing about life?" "What?" "That we get to choose who walks with us." I looked at him, not with the trembling heart of an abandoned child, but with the steady heart of someone who had saved herself. And in that moment, I knew. I had chosen Noah, and he had chosen me. Jordan, my co-founder, and watched me fall asleep at my desk, watched me nearly give up, watched me fear I wasn't enough. He never told me to be strong. He just said, "If you fall, I'll lift you. If you run, I'll run with you. If you win, I'll pop the champagne." My early employees, who didn't know I'd been kicked out, believed in me for my talent, my vision, who I was becoming. They didn't know how deep my hurt went. But they chose to stay because of the value I brought now. I realized, sometimes family is the people who see your future when you're still stuck in your past. As I became a voice for wounded children, thousands of people wrote to me, "You're the light at the end of my tunnel. I've never heard anyone say I deserve love. I thought I didn't belong anywhere until I heard you." I read each one, and every message was an invisible thread tying us all together. People I shared no blood with, no childhood, no background. But we had one thing in common. We wanted to heal, and they saw me as someone walking beside them. One day, after a workshop, a girl hugged me and said, "If your family doesn't want you, then we will." I broke down crying. Not from pain, but because it had been so long since I'd felt such pure love. In that moment, I understood. My legacy is not in the Clark name. My legacy lives in the hearts I touch. With the inheritance and my own income, I created a fund, the Second Home Project. Its mission: support teens and young adults disowned by their families. Provide therapy, help with skills, jobs, scholarships. Create a safe place to start over. Not a cent of that fund goes to anyone named Clark. Not out of hatred, but because my legacy will never again feed toxicity. On launch day, hundreds of people like me showed up. They hugged, they cried, they laughed, they found each other. When I spoke, I wasn't nervous anymore. I said, "Family is not where you were born. Family is where you are loved the right way." And here, we will create the kind of family we deserve. The whole room stood up. Many couldn't hold back their tears. And I knew I'd done something the Clarks never did for me. Given someone a place to belong. That night, Noah drove me home. He held my hand and asked softly, "Are you happy, Jolly?" I nodded, then added, "Not just happy. I feel free. And I love my life 100 times more since I chose my own family." Noah smiled and squeezed my hand. Then, "Welcome home." I looked up at the starry sky. No more feeling lost. No more chasing approval. No more proving anything to the Clarks. I had a career I built with my own hands, a man who stayed for who I am, a team that sees me as their leader, and a community that sees me as a source of strength, and most importantly, I had a family, not bound by blood, but by love, choice, and freedom. That is my true legacy, not tied to lineage, not owned by the past, owned only by my heart, and the hearts I've touched. The life of Jolly is proof that not everyone who gives you life will love you right. But pain is not the period at the end of your story. It's just a comma. So you can write a stronger, more beautiful, more deserving chapter. Jolly lost the family she shared blood with, but found a family she chose. She lost fake protection, but gained real freedom. She lost her past, but claimed her future. If you've ever been belittled, abandoned, or told you're not enough, remember, your worth is not in their eyes. It's in your journey to stand back up. If this story moved you, inspired you, or helped you feel less alone, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel so we can spread more stories of healing together. You deserve to be loved. You deserve your own life.